Okay, so we have a very interesting guests here. You met them all in the previous sessions. We're going to jump introductions because you have all introduced yourselves. The interesting topic about trusted AI in media and education and how we can fight misinformation in media and education. So I would start off by asking you a question. How many of you have witnessed your relative sharing an obviously fake news? Come on, don't be shy. All right, no one is perfect. And I'm sure you also know someone who has faked his diploma or, education credential. If not, someone amongst relatives, then at least your minister or your famous politician. But anyhow, so apparently that's a huge problem, and we're gonna tackle the problem of misinformation and how artificial intelligence is also kind of exacerbating a problem and how it can actually also solve a problem. So I'm going to start with Wes. Wes, you already really nicely described and showcased how we can use sort of a chat analyst solution to come to trusted information about just about any company, and in that way we can power trust in financial industry, which is like a very important thing. We've witnessed Bernie Madoff in a previous bull and boost market, and now within the crypto market also Sam Bankman-Fried, who has nicely pulled a lot of value, and this value just disappeared. So in relation to that, in financial industry and financial media, how important is trusted information and problems that you see in this space? You already touched upon some of the issues.
Yeah. I mean, more broadly, it's a no-brainer because half the problems you see in financial services are caused by lack of good data or lack of trust in the data you have available. I mentioned I worked in real estate for a bunch of years in mortgage-backed securities post-financial crisis as they were trying to rebuild that system after it basically blew up in 2008. And a big part of the problem is you have these complex bonds with thousands of underlying properties and no good reporting information, or when you do have it, it's held by some third-party company. That company goes out of business. Now that information's been lost. If all of this is held and it can be trusted on a knowledge graph like the DKG, it solves a lot of problems in causing financial losses, but it also just saves a lot of money because there's hundreds of millions spent annually in the US alone on record keeping for this kind of thing. And I don't think the gas fees are that high to put this all on chain. And with wire services as well, since that's our background, at least once a year there's a fake PR press release that goes out and takes a couple $100 million off the market cap of a company because everyone just trusts it came from a specific place, but there's no real way to track that unless you know the provenance of the release. So there's some real low-hanging fruit that you could fix here.
Great, and with the blockchain wire solution chat analyst, this is just a first step, and how far do you believe this can go? We have, let's say, competitive centralized services in the marketplace already, but what is the advantage of a decentralized service in terms of also content syndication, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to the advantages of decentralized money or any other case where you don't have to trust any kind of tampering with it. So especially when it comes to information from sensitive government information, naturally the government controlling it is often with a conflict of interest to whether they may want to alter the information there or remove something that was previously there. So that's pretty obvious. But it's also, there's a lot of situations where JP Morgan doesn't want to put all their information or trust the provenance on Goldman Sachs system because they're competitors, or there's just an ownership thing. They can't abide by that. A decentralized version that's almost like a public utility that everyone can trust because it's open source and there's no way someone else can control it or use it against you is probably the more attractive solution there.
Thank you, Wes. I'm going to move on to Oshani. Oshani, your special field of interest are knowledge graphs and blockchains. I'm wondering, how do you see decentralized systems based on blockchains and knowledge graphs will help advance trust in artificial intelligence? We have witnessed that also artificial intelligence might be the biggest bullshit generator that was ever created apart from human beings. So how do you feel trust and the blockchain technologies, decentralized systems can help mitigate problems which are being generated by artificial intelligence also?
Thanks for the question. So I think the answer to that was, pretty evident in both John's presentation and Wes's presentation, because we saw some very cool demos of how first of all AI can be used to kind of enhance knowledge in certain cases, like creating questions, that could lead to a knowledge bank of assessments for educators. And in Wes's case, we saw how we can use frameworks like DKG to provide sources of verifiable knowledge assets to augment the hallucinated, or not hallucinated, like the generated things from these generative AI technologies. So in both cases, I suppose we can augment the existing Gen AI technologies to provide workarounds for these hallucinated technologies. In my work, I work on essentially preserving the provenance of scientific research. And so there are two aspects. So one is when you feed in bad data, that could actually correspond to some of the hallucinations as well. So if we can have verifiable research outputs, that could help alleviate the problems. So of course, this is not really the made up things that we hear about, but I'm also talking about some people falsifying information and how blockchain can help in first of all mitigating that problem in the first place, such that we have clean data, we have people to basically incentivize so that they can provide good data. And then there is another technique in Gen AI chatbots, like it's called RLHF, reinforcement learning with human feedback. So it's something similar to how you would say this is a good answer when you get an input from ChatGPT. But in very niche domains, perhaps you probably want to incentivize people for the contributions that they provide. And I think something like a blockchain-based incentive mechanism could help. And then again, there's this other issue of intellectual property. So those are very complex topics. But I think a combination of blockchain and knowledge graphs, where we have some source of truth, and with blockchain, being able to verify that source of truth without any doubt, could actually provide solutions to this very, very complex set of problems.
I think you pointed out also one important aspect here, that trusting information source is important, but also being able to protect your copyright is almost equally important. So kind of preventing copyright slurping in a fashion that bigger centralized companies are doing now, and also receiving lawsuits from creators which are never really compensated for their work being used to train models. John, let me move to you now. John, I watched your TEDx talk on blockchain-based decentralized university, the one you presented now that you're being part of. It's really amazing. So how do you believe blockchain-based decentralized universities and the approach you suggested, which is the autonomous organization or DAO within the university, could be used to create a new kind of university with no central control? And following that, how could blockchain and knowledge graphs help push for such an agenda? When I watched your TEDx talk, you focused mainly on blockchains. And now artificial intelligence and also knowledge graphs underpinning such technologies. How do you feel the university that you're representing could be, put next to universities? I'm not going to say that you're creating some sort of a competition to Oshani's university, but still, how do you feel it can compete in the market of other universities?
Okay, great question. Thank you. So, as I said in my talk, I've been at the Open University all my academic career, all my career. And it's funny to be in academia. So we're a laggard area. So if you went to your doctor or your engineer and they said, oh, come to me because I'm going to use methods which were 500 years old, you'd run away, you'd run a mile. Okay, but the university can do that. They can say, come to us because we're really old and we really have old methods, and people somehow like that. I don't understand why that. So we were created 50 years ago, which is young in European university terms, and I really think that the people who created us were geniuses. So what they did was they disaggregated what a university is, even before the internet was big. This is, back in 1970. And what they did was they separated out the part of creating educational materials, they were central academics, from the part of delivering teaching. We actually hired other professors to do that. I joke we were sort of an Uber before the internet came around. Now we've moved up on board. So the OU's been thinking about disaggregation since its very beginnings and changing the model of universities. And I think what drives us and what drives me is this social mission. So the end goal for us is basically free, high-quality learning for everyone. It was one of our vice-chancellors who said that his goal was to break the insidious link between exclusivity and quality. That, again, universities can say, come to us because we reject everyone. We reject 99% of the people that come to us, so we're really good. I mean, how can you sleep at night? You should be open. So I love the word that we're open. So if you have that goal, you want to be open. You have to think about how can you reduce costs but keep the quality. So disaggregation is one key, that you can disaggregate. You've already disaggregated content generation from teaching. You can also disaggregate assessment, the IT aspects, and have the different parts have that. The other thing is we believe in lifelong learning. It doesn't stop, as I said earlier. That means you're going to be learning across. Now, what you really want, you don't really want to, let's say if you're 35 years old or 40 or older, you don't suddenly want to drop out of your career for 5 years, mostly, because you have mortgages to pay. But you want the learning to come to you. So imagine if we lived in a world where the learning could adapt to you. You could generate your own personal learning pathway and then have your favorite teachers. So, for example, I want to be like Oshani. I want to have Sir Tim Berners-Lee teach me, or somebody else famous. Now, maybe individual professors could do that, and then you have your own path. So it's really completely changing what a university is, from this big, old thing that's monolithic to something that really adapts to you. Blockchains can help in terms of identity and disaggregation and who gets the credit for this. AI can help in reducing costs. So I think the two together, also with knowledge graphs, you can really do something special, as long as people don't believe it has to be old to be any good or exclusive.
And can we also hope for future prime ministers, politicians be educated by open universities with real diplomas?
I think you actually have produced a few PMs, haven't you?
Yeah, there are famous people, I'm trying to think. There are, I think, I might be right, I think Gordon Brown, who was Prime Minister for a while, don't quote me on that, but I think, and I think some of them have been not only students, but have been tutors. So, these other people that we hired to be tutors for us. So a lot of famous people have been tutors for us as well.
Anna, do we have time for some closing thoughts? Wes, back to you.
Yeah, I'd say even though we're focusing on the financial side because that's kind of where we come from and where we see the easiest path for it. I think the same concept applies to any news media you want to consume. I mean, we're focused on financial media and financial information, but I also want to know provenance of the data or the news I'm getting online, because that's probably an even bigger problem than financial information. And the DKG is perfect for me because I'm not expecting it to tell me the validity of the statement that's being made. There's no way any system can fact check every article that gets created. I just want to know I'm getting it from the right place so that I can understand the source, use my knowledge of the source, if it's biased or not, and then make my call from there. But the problem is when I see an article that says it's from CNN or something that, a CNN article that cites Reuters, and it wasn't actually in Reuters, but there was a mistake along the way because they didn't have provenance of their underlying source. So it's critical that there's no break in the chain between original documents and what's actually getting to us. It's okay if there's garbage in, garbage out. That's pretty much impossible to fix, but you're compounding that problem if you then have breakages along the way where you're getting worse and worse data. By the time it gets to us, you don't even know if it's true or not.
Thank you. Wes, Oshani, can solutions such as a decentralized knowledge graph, can it be put into the center of new knowledge generation? They say knowledge is power, and knowledge shared is power multiplied. And in some ways, gaining knowledge and also kind of sharing knowledge oftentimes can be seen as an exclusive profession in a way. So how can what you guys are studying can also helping to build? How can it help advance knowledge exchange and knowledge sharing also in the context of decentralized AI? And then I'll move on to John, who will answer a question: how can Open University help push for that? But perhaps a more exclusive view in a way, because you're representing a university which is still open, but at least not at a face value as open as John's University. How can we combine both approaches towards making knowledge generation and exchange more, let's say, inclusive?
Right. So when it comes to making AI inclusive, I suppose making the models available for other people to use could make a huge difference, because actually right now there are lots of models that are available. There are websites like Hugging Face that makes so many models available for decentralized AI. I'm trying to connect your question to the university setting, because our university is not as open as Open University. However, we try to be open with our coursework, and we try to follow things similar to the MIT OpenCourseware to make the knowledge shareable. I must admit, it's not in knowledge graph format, or it's not in a it's not available on a blockchain by any means. But I gave a very brief presentation earlier about how to make science more open. So that has been a recent interest of mine. How can we make the data collection process much more equitable, so that everybody in the whole research life cycle will gain benefits for the hard work that they do, and it's not limited to just the final paper, which obviously contributes to your H-index, but some people put a lot of effort in collecting the data, writing code, and there are some benefits. Actually, there are lots of benefits by making those things available even before the paper is published. So how to do that in a way that your ideas won't be scooped up, you get the due credit. So that's an interest of mine. And then with respect to making, let's say, models available, so Hugging Face is a very centralized place, but can we have a decentralized marketplaces for making these models available? Can we actually have, let's say if you have a model and we need data from lots of contributors, can we collect the data and reward those contributors in a fair manner? So we recently had a paper called Predict Chain, where we developed a system where people, researchers could upload models to this decentralized ecosystem. And at the same time, people could contribute data to improve the models. So there are efforts like that that could actually bridge much more availability and inclusivity for everybody in this decentralized AI space. So that's kind of my stance on that. I guess over to you.
I think you passed the ball to John to conclude this panel with your final thoughts.
So yeah, So the thing with any new technology, what it does really at its heart is it makes you think, what are you doing? What's the point of what you're doing? And I'm at a university. So the UK universities, I was at the Houses of Parliament for this in the UK, and I know globally they're all panicking because of ChatGPT. They're all really panicking because students could be using ChatGPT to generate their essays. We've done some evaluations. For the undergraduate courses at the OU, it gets a good pass, not for the master's courses. And the detectors don't work. So now the way I think about it is, well, why are we teaching students to do something that an AI can do? It's like teaching people to do multiplication, long multiplication and long division when calculators come out. So you really have to think, what's a university for? And the core at changing anything at university is assessment. If you don't change assessment, everything else is just a waste of time. If you change assessment. So I think we're going to go through an assessment revolution, and this will be tying assessment closer to what students will be doing when they go out to work in the world. For example, for Wes, what does he need? He probably doesn't need people to write essays like ChatGPT can. So that's really what we need to think about. What, for every sector, what does it we really need? What's the nature of knowledge? And how can we empower citizens to have control of that? That's what I think about. What blockchain does is it really gives you fine-grained provenance. It's almost, you could say, okay, this piece of source came from this person, this is where they got the degree, this is their professor, this is what the professor had for breakfast, and then you can say whether you trust it or not. And it's up to you. But you need to also train students to live in this world as well. That's my final thought.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So no more fake news and no more fake diplomas in the future, hopefully. Thank you very much to our guests, Oshani, John, Wes.